All right, we're recording. Welcome everyone to the Rink Rat Report Podcast. Recording this one March 21st, 8:14 p.m. I think it's the first day of spring, or the first day of spring was recently, but
Yesterday.
it's freezing outside. It is way too damn cold for it to be spring. As always, joined by Jason.
How's it going? Yeah, it was yesterday, and I remember I was out and about at around 4 p.m. in the
Almost
Greater Toronto
freezing.
area, and it was cold, but there was like sun out and stuff. And I was driving north, and then all of a sudden over the hill, I just see like a little bit of fog, and I'm like driving, and I'm waiting at a traffic light. I was driving towards that fog, and then I see the fog coming towards me, and I realize it's like the White Walkers are coming for Winterfell. It was like literally a wall of snow. I've never experienced that
Yeah.
in my life. It was crazy, especially in March 20th, kind of nuts, but. I looked at the weather next week. Looks good. Have been running inside. I've been sticking to my routine. Want to
Oh,
throw
there
that
we
out
go.
there. Sticking to my New Year's resolution, we'll call it. Yeah.
There you go. Awesome to hear. Um, damn it. Anyways, um, yeah, it was way too cold. It's sunny at least, which is nice.
Yes.
We had 4 Leafs games to talk about, and honestly, I think the narratives are running wild right now. The narratives are running in so many different directions. Like it's insane. It's
Mm.
honestly hard to keep up with what are the Leafs based on narratives. I will say, because there isn't really, you know, I don't feel like there's one way to go about it. But so
Yeah.
we're gonna get
And
into the games. We're gonna
yeah.
get into a little what should the roster look like come playoffs, right?
Yeah.
What are we gonna expect? As well as I think we have some other statistics to be talking
Just yeah.
about.
No, it's more so like it's more so like what you were talking about there, pretty much, in like the narratives. Yeah.
Exactly. But before we get into all of that, this episode is brought to you by the spring cleaning champions Manscaped. This season, make sure to groom your carpets and the drapes with the leaders in the below the waist grooming. Clear out that winter bush with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 and watch your confidence bloom. Like the springtime flowers, embrace the season and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our special offer. Go to manscaped.com and use code RINKRAT, RINKRAT, for 20% off and free shipping. Hosts to talk about a funny grooming story down there or life before Manscaped. I don't have I don't have any of these stories. We've been with Manscaped for several years. If I had a new one every single week, like they ask in the talking points, I would really hope that someone would send help because that's just absurd. So
So just
Manscaped,
to
promo code RINKRAT, manscaped.com,
well,
20%
I,
off and
I
free
have a
shipping.
little anecdote that I can riff off quickly here. Um,
Sure.
I was like, well, here's the thing. I can't really talk towards life before Manscaped, but I can mention that hey, sometimes I let things get a little carried away, right? Sometimes we're not always on top of the ball.
You didn't trim before Manscaped?
Well, I trim before Manscaped, but sometimes now that have Manscaped in my life, I sometimes there's not as like I'm working more, I'm doing more stuff nowadays. I don't have as much time in the day, so sometimes I let that grooming kind of put it on the back burner. And I just want to say that if you're a new runner, I definitely recommend you
Oh, wow.
keeping on top of that stuff because it definitely helps
Oof.
manage a lot of things. Let's just call it that.
That's
It's
a great
it's
visual
better
right
that way.
there.
So, anyways, that's a little anecdote I had.
Manscaped.com, promo code RINKRAT, RINKRAT. Before we go any further, I actually almost forgot. This past weekend was the OMHA Championships, actually GTHL Championships for U16 AAA, where last night, if you've been listening to the show for a few years now, you will have remembered. I think he stopped recording with us last year. It was Josh Cooper, Jason's brother, is the coach, is one of the coaches on the Barrie Colts U16 AAA. They smoked the competition in the OMHAs. They're going into the OHL Cup ranked 2 according to the OHL, number 1 according to this podcast. I will tell you that for free. The Von Kings won in the league for the GTHL
Hmm.
U16 AAA. The OHL Cup starts Monday, March 25th. So just a big shout out to Barrie Colts U16, wagon of a team. Like so many of these players are so good and so talented and are going to do some great things. So watch out for our Barrie Colts coming week. All right, let's get into the Toronto Maple Leafs now because they didn't quite smoke the competition in as many games as I would have liked. 2-2 this past week. No, 2-1-1 this past week. One of them being a shootout loss. I want to start with the Carolina game real quick because we can kind of group the Philadelphia game into one and then the Washington game as well. Well, actually, there was 2 blowouts this week.
Yep.
Love it. 2 out of 4 blowouts.
Almost 3. Almost 3.
Yeah. Well, there was a 3-goal lead.
Yeah.
Should be closing those ones out. But the Carolina game, narrative base. Because I had to bring it forward to someone because they were like, oh, Leafs lost against Carolina. They were up 3 goals and they blew it. They had a 2-goal lead going late into the game and they totally blew it. They totally blew that game. How can they compete in the playoffs when they're blowing games like that? Carolina's one of the best teams in the East. If not, they're way right up there top 3 guarantee. Are they not?
Yeah.
Do they have any injuries
yeah.
right? Yeah. Do they have any injuries right now?
No.
The Leafs played them toe to toe, went up in that game. How many goals or points did you get from Austin Matthews in that one? Did you have Mitch Marner in that game either?
No.
The Leafs are dealing with some injuries. They went up in that game. The Kampf call was kind of horse shit. I will say that. Does the penalty kill need to be better? Of course. Were you competing with the Carolina Hurricanes toe to toe, playing pretty good hockey for the most part, I would say, for 57 minutes of the game? Why can't we take that? Why can't that be like, wow, that was actually a great showing by the Leafs?
It's a result.
Shit happens in the game. You shouldn't be blowing 2 goals. I will say that, but when you look at this game, no goals from your best player. Your other best player was not even playing, and you had that as the result. And I think that's not bad for one singular regular season game.
Yeah, and on top of that, they scored with literally 2 seconds left in the second period on the power play, mind you. On top of that, again, like you said, we're missing Mitch Marner, who's our best special teams player, both like in the fact that he plays power play and number 1 penalty kill for us. And this game had 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 4 power plays, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 penalty kills. Are you kidding me? That we're missing our best penalty killer, and there's literally 9, our best special teams guy. There's 9 special teams opportunities. That's nuts. On top of that, like I said, they score with a couple seconds left at the end of the second to come within 1 goal. Within 1 goal. It was 3-2 at the time. And then, they scored. Listen, I give respect to them the way they scored those goals. They got into the dangerous areas, had a nice tip to score. And I mean, I'm not, like you said, I'm not mad at this. I thought the team played very well. If they played, in my opinion, without Mitch Marner, if they played that game 10 times over, they win 6 out of 10 of those games. And then Carolina wins 4. Maybe if they played 100 times, they win 55. Maybe that's a little bit of a better number. I thought they were the better team that night. On top of that, they also didn't have their best rated defenseman defensively playing that night. He was healthy scratched. Simon Benoit. He was not playing that night.
We just gave them
we shot ourselves in the dick. Sorry. But yeah, it was just, what are we doing there? And we'll get into that a little later. But I thought, I'm happy with that performance. We're still trying to figure out what a Matthews line looks like without Marner. Now that with Marner out, we can see that there's been an adjustment period there. I'm fine with it. I'm happy with the result.
Yeah, not happy because you lost.
Of course.
However, flip the narrative. You were up 4-2 going into the dying minutes where you took there was a horse shit penalty that I don't know why they're calling that late in the game, but best player he played okay-ish, we'll say. Mitch Marner not in the lineup. Simon Benoit should have been in the lineup. He was not. Happens, whatever. Dumb decision. And that was the end result. Just a little bit of a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
right? I'll get more into narratives a little bit later because narratives don't like you can flip the script on narratives so easily. They're words, it's the English language, right? So we'll get into more of that later. So the Carolina game, 3 breakaways. On top of Bobby McMahon had a breakaway as well that I counted. So I counted at least 4 breakaways by the Leafs in that one, which against
Mhm.
Carolina is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall it was a pretty good game. I thought like it wasn't just like, oh, they were quick strike off. I thought they had some other chances in there too.
Hmm.
Kochekov's an interesting goalie though. That guy, I would never ever think to sprawl out like he does and dive at a player. Like to me, that's just like an injury waiting. It scares me so much when he does
Yeah.
that. And his stick is always flying all over the place too. Just an interesting goaltender. I think he's going to be pretty decent for them. Like in the future, he's still getting there.
Yeah.
But any other thoughts on the Carolina game?
No, that's pretty much it for me. I think
All right,
we summarized it pretty well there.
Yeah, let's lump these 2 Philadelphia games together in this one. Philadelphia in the first game with Sean Couturier. I feel like A, Harrison didn't play that well. B, the Leafs shelled them right off the back. But
Mhm.
C, you also got some key saves from Samsonov early in that game. The issue that I have with Philadelphia is that their blue line defense is so bad and their center support in the defensive zone. It feels like I don't know why I can't even pinpoint who. I know Morgan Frost did it once and someone else did it another time. But the centerman on Philadelphia just over back checks every single time. It opens up that second layer, and that's where you saw Matthews ripped it. I believe it was William Nylander right after had a good rip, and then in the game that the Leafs lost, conversely, again, you saw William Nylander dancing right through the Philadelphia defense. I feel like that was a bit untapped in the second game, but yeah, the first game was just a romping. I thought the Leafs played pretty well there. Unfortunately, the special teams, um, it's a big when you think about it this way. This is also a great narrative. As a tribute to Mitch Marner, because he can't play, the Leafs don't want to play on the power play or the penalty kill for that fucking matter either. So they have hopefully with the him and Calle Yarncroc coming back, it'll sort out.
Mhm.
But it's just been a terrible week of penalty kill and power play. Oh my Lord Jesus. But
Yeah.
I will say this in the second Philadelphia game, that game should have been 7-6. The Leafs didn't play that well, but come on. 5 posts in one game to go along with Cam York stopping an open net. And it was Bobby McMahon getting stopped on a breakaway as well. I thought he was going to have him on that one. But then conversely, you look at it the other side. Philadelphia had 3 posts in this one. TJ Brody stopped an open net, and Connor Dewar stopped an open net. So
Mm.
just a 4-3 game that should have had an extra at least 4 or 5 goals. I thought that was insane to watch.
Yeah.
Samsonov played like crap, but happens.
Yeah. No, I think you summarized things pretty well there. I was, yeah. Like I know you said earlier that you weren't like too happy, like we were 2-1-1. You weren't too happy with like the team's overall performance this week, right? But like
No. Mainly the special
yeah,
teams.
that's fair. That's fair. I
With
think like
Carolina,
no
I was fine with that game. They won 2 games. And then on top of that, like the Philadelphia game had some moments to it, but also had some really, really shitty moments to it.
Mhm.
So there was just that one game, really, when you look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Honestly, I feel like they just need to cut down on Nylander's power play time. Or sorry,
Penalty.
penalty kill. Sorry, penalty kill, penalty kill time.
Ooh.
I almost got people
Uh-oh.
mad at me for that one. Yeah, I think that's like the biggest crux. And I think you can kind of see it in like the last couple of games. He's been getting less and less time.
The penalty kill?
Yeah, with Marner coming back, I could see him getting bumped potentially. But
Yeah.
yeah, especially
Yeah.
in these games. So sorry, I
What
like
have you thought about the
I
new
lost my train of
guys?
thought.
Dewar, Labushkin, Edmondson. Are there any other new guys? Labushkin
Nope.
injured, which I actually have some thoughts on him, but you
Yeah,
go first.
I like their style of play. I think people were like really hung up on the fact of like, and I think I mentioned this a couple of times. People were hung up on the fact that like, oh, like we're gonna have trouble breaking out. We didn't get any puck movers, all that stuff. But like, I haven't seen that like to be that big of a struggle for us, and I haven't seen these guys struggling too hard on that. The onus is just more on the forwards now, and that they're not like, we know that we don't have good puck movers, so the forwards just have to do a little bit of a better job, not blowing the zone early, like getting into positions of support, like opening yourself up to be able to receive a good pass and be a good outlet option for your defenseman. And then also these guys like have to just be able to rely on the system and just know like if they don't have that outlet option on the forward or center, they can just bump back to their D. So like I'm not like with regards to like Edmondson and
hold that thought, because just as you mentioned there with the breakouts, so when you have a skilled defenseman that can move the puck, that can handle the puck, you're able to allow him to be able to hit the center through the middle on a breakout pass, right? Less skilled defensemen like Benoit, you're either going to defer to your partner or you're going to go like glassing out around the boards kind of thing. You don't want that puck going into the dangerous area. Yeah. So I think Lyubushkin possibly could. Lyubushkin's got an underrated amount of skill. He's okay. Like it's okay. It's not horrible, I will say. But like if you have guys like Benoit in the lineup, that's where it's going to be glassing out. That's where like you have some speedy wingers. I would almost like you mentioned don't blow the zone. Yes, when there's center support down low and he's going to be looking for that winger along the side. Yeah, situationally. But if you have a guy like Benoit with the puck, like you might as well try a glassing out and like look for that stretch the zone, right? You remember what Frankie Corrado said? Like, don't think of it as glassing out necessarily. Try to punt it into the neutral zone, start the battle there. Right? That could be another sort of strategy as well that I thought. But anyways, yeah, just something I thought I'd bring up.
Yeah, no, that's a good point in that. I agree with what you said about Lyubushkin, because I think people see his chart on Twitter and they're like instantly like, not even the people who are like it's easy to like assume that number is like an overall encompassment of someone's game.
He's
but like if
the
you watch
same defenseman that we traded for 2 years ago. Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed except a couple numbers on a page. Like that's pretty much it. So I don't know.
He hasn't gotten worse. Like it's just here's the thing with those charts that you also have to take into context here. They kind of show the value that the player is playing at for the situation that they're being put in. Is Lyubushkin a number 1, 2, 3, 4? No, probably not. Not on a contending team, 1000%. 5, 6, yeah, sure. He can bring something different to this lineup, right? So his 1%, yeah, it's 1% for the situation that he's being played in my opinion, right? Like there's certain like Moritz Seider's numbers I don't think are that good this year. Right. But he's being overplayed. He's being over relied on. Yeah. But is there anyone better than him on Detroit? No, not really. So it's a tough situation for him. And also situationally, like you're being played as a number 1. Okay. That might be okay on very, very good teams. But you're being played. How good are you as a number 1 now on a dog shit team? That's also something situational that you have to take into account.
Yeah.
So.
And I want to touch more on like this gap between like in a couple like minutes here. We'll touch on it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later. The one thing that I've noticed with Lyubushkin, he turns over the puck a ton. And unfortunately, it's at our own blue line. But what he does do well is he recovers well. But unfortunately, you see the downsides of that, which turning over the puck is a downside, 1000%. His recovery is good. However, when you look at like the first goal against Montreal, when you turn over the pucks like that, your forwards are forced to sort. They're forced to sort quickly. And so sometimes they're not going to pick the right guy to go to, and a guy ends up with an open net, right? Like Lyubushkin picked the right guy, in my opinion. It's just Bertuzzi overcommitted to the other side. Wide open middle, bang in the back of the net. But yeah, he unfortunately turns the puck over a good amount, but he's playing okay, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's tough to like also focus on like those like it's tough to like watch those breakdowns and just only break down the goals, because like those things happen quite a bit where like maybe a forward is out of
Yeah.
position and you think like,
No, he blindly throws it from his backhand.
I know, but like
It's
again, that's
blind. It's him blind trying to whip it around,
no,
and it doesn't work out.
I get that, but like again, like we got to take it in a totality where it's like maybe that is like a one-off instance. If he does that often and we're not paying attention to it
I've seen
because
it 4
he's not scoring
times.
goals. Okay, fair. So, but at least he recovered well. Like,
The times against
um,
Carolina, he did.
yeah, that's good.
Montreal, unfortunately, it went into the back of the net,
Yeah,
and I think there was another one in there. I can't find it though, but that's okay. Anyways, Edmondson, he is who I thought he was.
like he's like a good 6'5", like
Not
6,
good.
7.
I
Like,
don't like him. He's a
you
7.
don't think he's okay? I think he's a
It
fine
doesn't.
6'7" for us.
I just hate the way he handles the puck.
That's fine. That's fair. But if he plays
And
like,
he's slow. He's
yeah,
slow as
well,
shit.
that is an issue, and that's become like kind of maybe hyper focused on it, recency bias with the result with the Flyers game, seeing Owen Tippett blow past our defenseman a couple times. But
He did
again,
that to Brody too. Which
yeah, I know, and I'm not saying like again the alternative is also slow. Giordano, Brody, like those guys are who would maybe like based on the Washington game are who they would probably be putting in for Edmondson, right? Like those are his replacements. Are those guys fast either? Like no, like, and I'd rather like again, you said it right when we talked about Maurice Sider a little bit earlier. You got to look at what you have, and you know what? Sometimes you're gonna have to put Maurice Sider, throw him to the wolves. He plays the toughest competition of anyone, and his numbers don't look too good, and he doesn't look that great defensively because he's playing the toughest competition. And he's playing out. He's playing out of his element in a situation that's like above what his ability is. But that's what you got to do. You can't like not everything is a perfect fit, right? You got to kind of work with what you got, and I think that's what kind of Edmondson is. And again, I value the net clearing ability. Probably, I think I value that more and more year over year. Watching the playoffs more, I don't value it if someone's like blindly doing it, like just like it's not like I need them to be physical. It's like that is a skill. Period. Like being able to get under stick and clearing out the front of the net. If he's able to do that when it matters, like in the playoffs, not when it matters, in the playoffs, period. If he's able to do that when he's on the ice, we can get a clear sight line for Samsonov and Joseph Wall, who both have looked pretty like when they're seeing the puck, they're able to see the puck. If there's not traffic in front, and if it's not like a crazy shot, like pre-shot, like if there's not some crazy pass where there's a ton of pre-shot movement on it, like coast to coast kind of thing. If they're able to clear the net and he can see it, like I'm confident in their ability to save it. So that's kind of the goal of Joel Edmondson here is to, hey, maybe he doesn't make the best first pass. He's not quick, but when the puck is in our zone, when we're struggling to get the puck out, when we're getting tired, he'll make sure that our goalies will have the sight line to stop the puck.
I'd still rather Brody than him.
Fair. That's fair. That's like a fair replacement to have. I think the worry with that you mentioned here, obviously he's slow and that's not going to change, but like his puck handling ability, if he like, it seems like they want to play him with Liljegren. If he plays with Liljegren, like maybe he can like kind of form into what Benoit has done where it's glassing out or give it to Liljegren. Now the problem becomes Liljegren also has some pretty big event negative plays. He's a pretty good puck mover, but he's able to move the puck, but he also has some like very big, costly mistakes that he makes in his game. And that's part of the reason why he's never been able to be trusted in getting a top 4 role. So that's also an issue, but again, he's still a good puck mover. And I think it could, they're trying to at least make that pairing work.
Yeah. I mean, they're playing Liljegren quite a bit. I mean, almost 23 minutes last night, 21-23, 20-53. He's doing all right. He's playing pretty well. So hopefully that continues there. But
well, I mean, you just look at last game against the Capitals. You look on the other side of the aisle. There's a reason why we had to trade Rasmus Sandin, who played the most minutes for that team at 5-on-5. It's because there was no fit for him. And it's like, hey, if there's not a fit for the guy, trade him. But if there is a fit for the guy, let's play him. Let's not make these same mistakes that we've been making year over year over year over year. Listen, I don't think I agree with them scratching Benoit, but like, I don't agree with it, period.
I haven't seen a reason to take him out.
There's no reason to take him out. Sure. So like Brody should have been scratched last game. And he was scratched last game, but like previously, those are the guys who should have been scratched. It
was terrible because he was forced to play the right side also, which he's been terrible on the right side. But He looked rough in that Philadelphia game. Oh my goodness. Connor Timmins had a decent game last game. Couple pucks on net. What was the other one? He had an assist, did he not? On the
That
Matthews second goal.
I
Yes, I'm drinking this. Yeah, he did. Did he? Did they not give that to him? What the hell? Anyways,
I
this
didn't.
has become an episode where we just look at stats and then hum and haw. So no, they didn't give it to him. That's ridiculous. I thought that puck was
Oh, well.
from him.
Well,
Maybe
yeah. What were give me your thoughts on general and just the week so far, or the week, I guess, week in review.
not bad. I mean, especially considering there was no Mitch Marner. I wasn't happy with Matthews' play going into the week. He had a very good first game against Philadelphia. Carolina game, I thought he would do a little bit better, but whatever. The second Philadelphia game, I thought he was on and off, but a couple assists and a post hit, right? And fed Max Domi open net, stopped by Cam York. I thought he should have shot that. Oh my! When you look at the screenshot too, Ayerson is so locked and low. His hands are really low. His stance is so wide. He's locked in. But at the end of the day, it was a completed pass, high danger area, off the rush. I'll take that too all day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And plus, that shot would have probably hit the post. But then that last game against Washington, he not only had 5 points and a goal taken back, he had another chance in there right after the Nylander goal too. Like he looked a lot better. And I will say this, I wonder, and the only way to know is to keep them together and see how they play against different competition. But this pairing of Domi, Matthews, Bertuzzi started against Philadelphia, went pretty well, I would say. I mean, Domi played well, other than chucking sauce all the way to Scott Lawton off the rush coming out of the box. But that's another story right there. But I will say this with Matthews, it feels like when you look at the similarities of Domi's game and Marner,
Mm-hmm.
it's on a spectrum. I will say on a spectrum, obviously, because Mitch Marner's 1,000 times better. What does Domi do well? Well, he's a good skater. He can skate and he can create space with his speed, right? He can handle the puck, sometimes overhandles it, and is a pretty good passer. The one thing that Domi does well, that why he worked well with Kane, is that he's a guy that works well with the puck, right?
Mm.
Like some guys can't keep the puck on their stick and hold the puck because they're just not fast enough,
Mm-hmm.
right? I feel like Matthews works well when he's working off the puck, when he's working up with a guy that can create a little bit of speed, right? And that's what you've got here with Max Domi. Like sometimes Max Domi will throw unnecessary pucks up the middle and just blind dumb plays, but it looked like it was getting going and it looked like it was working against Washington. Now, caveat, that's Washington. They've either been an awesome team this year, and that's in one goal games, or they've looked like total dog shit.
Yeah.
So, and the Leafs thumped them last night, which they're good. The Leafs are due to thump Washington at least once a year, it seems like.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Just my thoughts on that. And the Bertuzzi complements it well as well. He's played well with Max Domi and finally starting to find the back of the net, which I was getting a little worried because his point totals weren't that high. And when you looked at it, it was the shooting percentage mainly, but like his PDO it was at like 100. So you're like, what the hell is going on here? I feel like this guy should have a lot more goals.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, now all of a sudden he has 15, like in was it 3 months, like 2 months? It's crazy.
My God, he's been ridiculous. How about that disallowed goal in the first Philadelphia game?
You were
disallowed goals this week.
It's like he's actually had like 7 this year. No, like is that an exaggeration?
4 or 5. There was one against Vancouver, one recently against Boston, one against Winnipeg, and then now against Philadelphia.
It's crazy, and also with the posts and the
and then he hit on an open net against
open nets, like
hit the post.
It's not one of those where it's a shot like you squeak through, hits the post. It's like open net, bounces off butts and goes. It's just crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, no, I like that line of Domi and Bertuzzi. I also like how Tavares is kind of settled in with Nyes as a winger.
Yeah.
I kind of like those two. I think I like Nyes' play. I feel like all year he's kind of been out of his element playing on the first line. I think it was the right thing to do to try and give him like those minutes and like let him play with the better players and like not bury him down the lineup like some teams do with their prospects. So I like that they utilize him, but now that we're getting to like, all right, serious time, I think he's more of he's a better fit against lesser competition. Number one, number two, he seems to work with John Tavares, where it's like that could be a pretty heavy, like grinded out line for you potentially in the playoffs, like where they take a lot of offensive zone face-offs and they're like kind of a pain in the butt to like play against, but they're also high skill and kind of very high, like very dangerous scorers.
Yeah.
Is Nylander the right fit on that line? I don't know, but yeah, like I like that line. I also, like you mentioned, the Domi fit for Marner is like perfect. And honestly, it's hilarious because we talked about that like 2 weeks ago when it's like, what is Max Domi? Like one of the things we brought up was like, hey, in a pinch, he could play in your top six. Like he could be that guy, and he's filled that role pretty well.
Yeah. So might as well leave that top line right now. See what they do next game. If it works, great. If it doesn't, switch it up. But if that can work, and here's where I will say this: we saw at times Austin Matthews work fantastically with Calle Yarncroc. Come playoff time, where you putting Matthews and Yarncroc together, no, it flamed out. It happens. It depends on the competition. It depends on a lot of different things, right?
Yeah.
It's good to see, though, that a different combination is working. Let's see how long this runs. And, like, fingers crossed, what if, and hear me out, I know the idea of having Max Domi on a first line isn't great when you think about it defensively, but hear me out and think about this. What if you can run that first line into the playoffs, maybe-ish? We'll see how defensively they do these next couple games. And then that frees up Mitch Marner to be able to plug into a couple different lines, and that makes a few different lines much more dangerous. Like, what if, they do run Matthews, Marner, Nylander sometimes, right? Like, what if you did like Tavares, Nylander, Marner? That'd be interesting, would it not?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, I think that's like an interesting conundrum of like how we should deploy our guys, right? Like how.
And also, I know it didn't work at the beginning of the year. Okay, you want Matthews, Marner together? Sure. I would leave Bertuzzi there. I know that the line didn't succeed as people expected it at the beginning of the year. I feel like that was because Bertuzzi came in, he was way too nervous, thinking too much, throwing pucks into no man's land nonstop. He's really settled down and he's made more of the simple plays and he's done a good job in front of the net. Look at Matthews' second goal last night. Like, Lindgren didn't see that a lick because Bertuzzi was battling in front of the net. I think you could run that line again and run it back, see how that looks. So that's another combination to take a look at there. Before we close out from the games, though, how about Bobby McMann? Little extension, 2 years, 1.3. That's 1.35. Perfect. That's fine. He's been very noticeable these last few games. He's generated a few breakaways, hit the inside of the post one game, had a slot shot that went over the net against Washington. It was a fantastic chance. And then Washington ended up scoring, unfortunately, on that play, but that's neither here nor there. But my point is, this is a depth guy that's been noticeable and has been getting chances. It's another clap it up. Awesome to see. So good to see Bobby McMann get extended.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was good on you to pick that up and remember that. He's deserved it. And you were I call you an early adopter of Bobby McMann. If there was like, if there was a stock, if there was like an investment in players, you'd be doing well.
There was a few people that were in on the Bobby McMann train pretty early, but I wasn't the only one. Definitely Kevin Petty was definitely as well. A lot of people were. But the one thing I will say about Bobby McMann, underrated part of his game is being able to find space, being able to find scoring chances. He's got a really hard shot. I would not underestimate his ability if you put him with a good passer. Just a thought.
Hint, nudge, Max Domi, question mark?
Someone of the sort, right?
I don't know.
Like, anyways.
Yeah.
That's just all I will say there. Any other thoughts on these games this week?
No, that's pretty much it. Summed it up pretty well. Summed it up pretty
Yeah.
well.
So 2-1-1. What do these next games look like? I don't even know. Been terrible with the schedule. We have, I don't think it's very kind. Oilers on Saturday, Sunday Hurricanes. Oh boy. All right, back to back. That's a tough one right there. New Jersey on Tuesday. We don't know what version of New Jersey we'll get. Washington again Thursday. And then next Saturday is the Sabres. So, yeah, that will be. I love how with this schedule, it's like you don't see a team all year, and
And
then
you
all
play
of a
them.
sudden you see them in bunches. Like they play New Jersey March 26th, April 9th, April 11th. And then
Yeah,
that's
it's really weird. I don't know when they started to do that. I think they tried, like, the idea was that they would try and get more back-to-back games with the same team, and it's like all clustered. I don't know. I'm not a fan of it.
it doesn't work travel wise
No,
though.
it
It's
doesn't.
just the
It
same
doesn't.
shit. So
Yeah. Like, if
I
you're
don't
gonna
know.
do it, just do like what baseball does, where it's like a series. If you're gonna do a series, just do it, and then that's it. But anyways, I'm
Yeah.
sure that's hard to organize. I've already gone in so hard on this podcast at the NHL schedule guy. Like, I feel like I want to just leave them alone at this point.
Yeah. And so currently as it sits, the Leafs have 87 points. They've played 68 games. They are up on a playoff spot by 7 points. 7 points up on Tampa Bay and 9 points up on Detroit with a game in hand on them. So
It's the
we're
same
looking all
thing
right.
every year. We're in like purgatory, spot purgatory, placement purgatory, playoff purgatory, where it's like 10, 15 games out where we already know what's going to happen. We know everything's locked in for us. It's like, it's
Not
going to be interesting
quite.
to
I
see how the
mean,
team responds.
the Panthers are 3 points back of Boston. They have 2 games in hand on them. So it could be Boston or Florida.
That's true, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that we have no control over who we play, I guess, is basically it. It's just like
kinda.
we're stuck
Just
where
one
we
week.
are, most likely, unless we can go on like some next level crazy run. Then we're like somehow vying for the first place spot, which would be sick, but I doubt that happens. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens down the stretch here.
A run would be really, really
A
nice.
run would be something. A run would be
Yeah.
something.
I do want to bring up one stat that I found recently. So Sportsnet posted today that Austin Matthews has hit the post or crossbar 16 times this year. So I actually found it's on the NHL website how many times a post or crossbar is hit by a player. For the Leafs this year, Matthews leads the team with 16. I believe last year he had 13 total. William Nylander's number 2 at 14, 10 posts, 4 crossbars, and then Marner and Tavares are tied for third with 7. Tyler Bertuzzi actually has 6 total, Nyes 4, Riley 5, and so on and so forth. Bobby McMahon 3. Oh, look at that. Yeah, so interesting stat that I just wanted to bring up there. So, shall we get into what does the playoff roster look like?
Yes, but before we do, when we're speaking of the playoffs, I just want to remind everyone about our sponsors over at DraftKings. We know the hockey game moves fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get 200 instantly in bonus bets. I know we've been tracking the Hart Trophy here, but unfortunately, it seems like it's taken down right now as there's a ton of games in play. In the NHL, so they don't have the Hart Trophy awards posted. So we're going to switch over. We're going to take a look at the Stanley Cup odds. Leafs sitting at 14-1 to win the Stanley Cup over at DraftKings Sportsbook, and it seems like we said earlier, our spot's pretty much locked in. So 14-1 could be interesting if you have some bonus bets to fire on that. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today. Use code THPN. New customers can bet $5 on the NHL and get 200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE New York 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible game resources. NHL and NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Let's get into this playoff roster here. What are your thoughts?
I don't know how anything fits together when you really look at it.
Same,
It
honestly.
it makes it's crazy that we're at game 68. We have no idea what the optimal lineup is. Uh, yeah, it's it's tough. It's
Yeah,
tough to say. I have no because it's tough because we just got Marner's not playing, so we don't know what he looks like with all these players in.
yep.
B Cali Yarncroc's not playing, so both those guys are
Mhm.
going to be in the playoff roster, 100%.
Yeah.
The defensive pairings, I think you can kind of shake them out how they're going to look. I wonder if they keep Riley McCabe together. What are your thoughts on that?
No.
No.
Yeah, I think our top 4 should be locked in, and I'm shocked that it's not. Like, I know it's because Labushkin is hurt,
Mm,
but it should be Riley, Labushkin, Benoit, McCabe. And then if you want to play Liljegren, play Liljegren. If you want to play Brody, play Brody. If you want to play Edmondson, play Edmondson. If you want to play Timmins, even play Timmins. Like that bottom, that 5, 6, 7, 8, and Mark Giordano, I guess as well. I don't know. I don't know if Mark Giordano is going to come back. Honestly, he
no,
got
he's
a
done.
pretty
I think
nasty
he's done,
concussion.
unfortunately. Great
Yeah.
career, but I
Um,
think he's done. But with the way that so now we saw a game where Brody was out. I think it was just maintenance.
hmm,
They lean on him so hard. I find it hard to believe that he's going to stay out. But look at how the lines have shaken out right now. Think about this. Riley Labushkin, Keefe seems pretty married to that, right?
yeah,
Labushkin
yeah,
went out. He was sick or whatever. He couldn't make the road trip. I think by next game, by Saturday, we're going to see them back together. Okay, perfect. Next up, we have the second line. McCabe's for sure going to be playing the right side. Okay, so now plug in left defenseman X here. Benoit had a couple pretty decent games, I will say, right? Is it Benoit or is it Brody? And then your third pairing, you have Joel Edmondson, Timothy Liljegren. So think
mhm,
about it this way: you have now you have 7 defensemen competing for 6 spots.
yeah.
Who's in, who's out? Like
So
this is going to
I,
be interesting to see. I almost feel like these next 10 games, next 14 games, 10 to 14, yeah, uh, whatever, just call it 14. Who cares? Um, is going to be a tryout for who makes the playoffs. So at least we have some competition there. I thought that
yeah,
was interesting.
no, that makes a ton of sense. And also, like, I think what's going to happen is it's going to be a scenario where I don't think there's going to be a locked in bottom, like 5, 6, 7. Like, there's not going to be locked in on the 5, 6 pair. I think it'll be if if they if Sheldon Keefe feels like we're getting outmatched physically, we'll see probably like a Brody Edmondson pairing. I think if Sheldon Keefe feels like we're not able to
Brody
move the
Edmondson.
yeah.
Ooh, I would not want that.
I mean,
Oof.
the thing is that we know that Liljegren really struggles under pressure. So if it's a heavy forechecking team, which we're going to be playing, which we will be playing, regardless of which team we play, because Boston and Florida are both heavy on the forecheck. We know that that's like a pain point in Liljegren's game where he really struggles managing aggressive forecheckers. That's like
Okay.
a given, right? So that's where I see how Timothy Liljegren gets his way out of the lineup. If I feel like
He
if they
looks
feel like
better
he's
than Brody on the right
ma-
side, especially. If
yeah,
I think 100%, if it comes down to a right side spot, right now they're going Timothy Liljegren over TJ Brody.
okay, that's interesting. I could see that as well. It'd be weird that he like I know he scratched TJ Brody last week, Keith, but it'd be weird to like your basically most utilized defenseman over the last 3 years. And again, that's not like a good reason to keep someone in. Oh, I've used them a lot in the past. That kind of like gets us to where Justin Hall was last year in the playoffs, where he was struggling and we
He was
kept going.
scratched though, Justin Hall. Think about that.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. So I think it's going to be a yo-yo though of like who's in, who's out. I don't think there's going to be, but I think the biggest thing is our top 4 locked in should be Riley Labushkin, Benoit McCabe. I think both those pairings have been successful. I know that that Brody's taken a lot of tough competition from the team, so it's going to be like kind of on Benoit and McCabe to alleviate that role of taking on more tougher competition. But they've been kind of doing that all year, so I'm kind of I'm confident in them.
If you were to predict next game's lineup, what would it be?
Next game,
Saturday.
I feel like defensively, like if Lyubushkin's still hurt, like everything's the same. And if Lyubushkin isn't hurt,
he's sick. He's going to be back.
So if he's, when do they play? They play Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he's probably be back. Then you would think that Connor Timmins would get bumped.
So you think Timmins out?
Timmins out for Lyubushkin. And then
you have Brody too. Where does Brody go?
I don't think Brody plays. I don't think the way that the team played last night compared to the previous two games
in a row.
Well, did anyone deserve to get, like, Brody got cooked in the Flyers game, like legit cooked.
Yeah.
Right? Did anyone, I know it was a win, so it's like harder to say that, but did anyone look like they should have been scratched from the previous game? And remember, you're already taking out Connor Timmins for Lyubushkin just by nature of Lyubushkin should be in because he's like, that's like a piece that we need and that's a piece that we value. And Connor Timmins is just a casualty as a result of just his position in the pecking order, right? Like, we're talking about guys fighting for a spot. Did Edmondson not look good enough that game or the last couple of games where it's like, hey, maybe we'll scratch him? But at the same time, do you want to scratch Edmondson down the stretch? You don't have much time with him in the sense that if you want him to play in the playoffs, he's kind of going to need to get accustomed to your system. So it makes sense to have him play more down the stretch, even if you're not going to use him in the playoffs, just to have him accustomed and comfortable in your system. Right? So that's where I see TJ Brody. As long as no one has made a mistake, I don't think it's fair to take them out. But again, who knows? We've seen crazier stuff happen before. Who do you think should be scratched, I guess?
I think it should be Edmondson. I just don't think he's very good. Sorry to be so rude about it, but that's about it. No, I realize you have to be careful with what you say, man. Like, think about, like, in terms of what I put on Twitter. So I posted, it was Ryan Reeves coming out of the penalty box. His eye was swollen. Guess who responded to it?
Who?
Willard Reeves.
No way.
His dad.
What did he say?
I just spoke. He confirmed. He just spoke to him. It was when his eye was swollen because Delorier went to grab his jersey and the thumb got him in the eye.
Wow.
But, like, that's where, like, the family of these players, I know they're probably not listening to the 47th minute of a niche Toronto Maple Leafs podcast, but
yeah,
when you put shit on Twitter, like, the family is looking up these players' names. Like, you got to be careful with how you word things.
Of course. Well, but also at the same time,
you want to not be an asshole, essentially.
Yeah, no, of course. But at the same time, you got to be honest and say, like, hey, if you feel like Joel Edmondson isn't playing well compared to how TJ Brody's played, that's fine to say.
Yeah, you can say it like that. Not he's fucking shit, but either way, I personally would take Joel Edmondson out and put Brody in, and then Timmins would obviously come out as well for Lyubushkin. I would like to see that. In terms of what they're going to do next game, I'm very afraid that they're going to take Simone Benoit out. I really do think that they're going to take Benoit out.
For the love of God, I hope they don't, because we saw how that can affect someone. Like, he's still 25 years old. He's still young.
No, but
right?
He played well these last. When he came in that Philly game after being out a couple games, I thought he was pretty good. He had 10 hits that game. Oh my God, that feels.
And that almost like also speaks to his character as well, which is like important.
Yeah, he said he kept working on his game. But when we talk about narratives, what about this narrative? This year with the Leafs feels like there's a few more hungry dogs on this team. A few more dogs that are, chomping for a playoff spot, chomping for a spot on the roster. Think about this. Like, they have a couple guys out right now. Is Holmberg on game one of this? Is Holmberg going to be in game one? Is Gregor going to be in game one? Is Reeves going to be in game one? Got a couple hungry guys that are fighting for playoff spots, right?
Yeah, and on top of that, if any of those guys are in, that probably means Nicholas Robertson is out, right?
That's who made me think of it, though. Last game, like, I thought Robertson was pretty like he's looked pretty hungry. He's been angry. He's done okay the last 2 games. There's been a couple good noticeable plays that turned into offense. There was one
Hmm.
that skipped over his stick. Unfortunately, didn't result in the best wood being got on it. We'll say that. Um, but yeah, I like that part. A few more hungry
Mhm.
dogs in this lineup, especially on
So
D. We've just been talking about it. There's
yeah.
seven spots for 6 guys. Who wants it? So
So
how about
who's
that
the
for a narrative? They're coming into the playoffs hungrier. They're
yes.
not a favorite. Nobody wants
Yes.
them to win. Dog mentality.
I love it.
How
Underdog
about that?
mentality. I love it. Let's hopefully be underdogs the entire way through. I mean, that's very unlikely, but let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
exactly.
Maybe I can recover after the many years of betting them to win the playoffs. Okay,
Mm,
betting them to win their playoff series. Anyways, forward lineups. What do you think is going here? Because I have like an idea that I like. I've liked, and I know we kind of went away with it when Marner got hurt,
mhm.
but I've liked the Tavares, Robertson, Nyes line quite a bit. Um,
Okay.
I thought it was like an interesting combo of players playing together.
Okay.
First
Yeah.
line, I would keep Marner Matthews together and do Bertuzzi there as
Yeah.
that left winger. The third line is where I'm like kind of scratching my head. Is like who plays center there? Should Max Domi be on that line? Should Bobby McMahon be on that line? Obviously, like Nylander. Like this isn't like the third line as well. It's like more of a second line, I
Mhm.
guess. But I wonder if like does it make sense to have David Kampf center, like Domi, Nylander kind of thing? Like does that make sense, or should McMahon be on that spot? Like I'm kind of like conflicted here on that. So I kind of just threw together Nylander, Kampf, Domi. I don't know if I
Yeah.
like that line though. And then
I
the fourth line would be
sorry.
McMahon, Dewar, Holmberg. Maybe I feel like McMahon has earned his spot higher in the lineup though at the same time. So
I
it's tough.
They're playing him. They played him with Matthews to start the game last game. Not that they
Yep.
really had a choice. I've never seen that before. A player sick, so he sits the first 3 shifts. That's that's crazy. I've never seen that before. And he scored. So fire me up. Um, the interesting thing, again, similar to the defense, we're not really gonna kind of have a good guess, we'll say. Anyone's guess is as good as anyone's in this scenario,
Yeah.
simply because we don't know what the coaching staff favors or likes because they haven't been presented with the 2 players that are going to be back come playoff time. That's Yarncroc and Marner.
I
So
forgot. I completely blanked about. Oh my god, I forgot
exactly.
about Yarncrack. Holy shit.
So
I
now
mean,
exactly. So we saw what the
yeah,
coaching staff favored when they had 7D all healthy, right? They favored Benoit out and the other 6 in. Benoit had a couple pretty good games. Does that change their mind?
hmm.
That's something that's a roll of the dice we're not sure right now. We can only guess and only give our best what we think is the best lineup. So right now, I don't think they're going to are they moving Domi back to center? He's playing well on the wing. That was something
Mhm.
that we wanted to watch. Remember
Yeah,
last week we said, "Hey, Domi can play well on the wing." You know, against the Montreal game, that's where it started. You know,
yeah.
and then hey, we got a viable option maybe for next year. He's playing pretty well on the wing, I would say. He's generating chances. He's putting up points, so that's a positive there. Do
Mhm.
they keep him on the wing though? That's gonna be. I think so. I think they
Y-
will to start.
So
Just
it's
who
funny
goes
that
center?
you said that because now that like the yarn, I can't believe I forgot about Yarn Crook. It's because like what I'm doing it has him on LTIR. I'm like kind of building it on cap friendly. So I was like just kind of looking at the guys available. And I'm like completely forgot about him because he was sitting on LTIR.
Yeah,
But to
it's like a
me,
deadline acquisition.
yeah, to me, to me, Yarn Crook is like the missing piece that kind of gives me clarity here because I
Oh,
think I want to see him on that first, like put him on the first line with Matthews Marner. Keep that Tavares line that I mentioned together. Nylander, Kampf, Bertuzzi, I think would be a good line to watch and an interesting line to
Nylander,
like,
Camp, Bertuzzi.
yeah. And that leaves you with Dewar, McMahon, Domi as your fourth line. A line that kind of has a little bit of scoring upside to it,
Sure.
a little bit of you know, hey,
I
it can
don't
be
like
made.
Nylander Camp together. We've seen it in the past, and I just
But
hated it so much.
So the problem with that
And
line,
they've
though,
never played together this year so far.
yeah, the problem with that line though is who was the third winger on that, like the third person on that line? It was Pierre Engvall, who we know to be just essentially a cardio merchant, just the guy who skates. Like he doesn't really do much on the ice for you.
Okay, but
As
what
much
does Camp
as
do
much as you want.
offensively?
He doesn't have to do much offensively when you have Tyler Bertuzzi and William Nylander there. He can support those two guys, I think. And I think William Nylander is a one-man
If
army.
you have a center that's just not doing anything on the ice offensively, I
But
feel
who,
like
okay,
that really hampers it.
okay, but who else would you put there? That's another question.
That's the
You
thing.
put Max Domi there?
That's what
Do
it's
you put
looking.
Connor Dewar there?
I think that's what you're shaking out to be. You're definitely not putting Connor Dewar there.
So do you put Max Domi there?
It's starting to unfold that it will be Max Domi at center. Unfortunate, because I
But
like
why?
him on the wing.
I know it makes sense because you're saying that because we haven't seen it yet, which is fair, right?
Mhm.
We haven't seen Camp, Nylander, Bertuzzi, but why not give it a shot? That's like kind of my thing. We've seen Domi, Nylander, Bertuzzi. We know that. Listen, it's not like it's a good offensive
High
line.
event. It's too high
It's
event.
high. That's the best way
I
to
think
put it.
come playoff time, it's going to be back to Tavares Nylander.
I hope not, honestly, because I think what this Tavares, like either it's Tavares, Robertson, Nyes, or Tavares, McMahon, Nyes. I like Tavares and Nyes playing together. I like Nylander separated from Tavares. I think those they work better separate than they do together. Yeah,
I think
just,
Tavares is just playing better hockey right now. It looks
yeah.
like he
Maybe
actually
that's
has
it.
some
Maybe
life
that's
to
it
him.
as well. Maybe that's it as well. Could be that.
So that'll be interesting. But just the way, like right now, Pontus Holmberg is playing third line center. I highly doubt they trust him enough defensively to leave him at third line center, because or else like you have if you do, you have a big question mark at third line center. That's the thing right now, because if you leave everything else, like there's a perfect kind of pecking order and pushing down of certain players where you know who's coming out once Marner and Yarncroc come back in. Like I believe Yarncroc's going to replace Robertson, and Gregor's going to come out of the lineup, and then Marner's going to come in. Those are the two guys that I think are out, right? I think they're going to keep Dewar in for sure. I like Dewar. I think he's had some good moments so far. He's had a couple a couple not clear cut breakaways, but against Washington, he had a really good. I think it was I guess you call it a breakaway, whatever. Carolina, same thing. Unfortunately, Carolina, he took a couple penalties. Philadelphia game, he saved a goal. That was nice. But yeah,
Yeah.
in terms of the forwards, yeah, is it Holmberg at center, third line, or is it Max Domi? That's something that is something that's to be seen, we'll say.
Mhm.
But anyways, my overall sentiment behind this, I would love it if Max Domi and Austin Matthews and Tyler Bertuzzi can continue to click. That would make things so interesting in a positive light for the Leafs. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's my 2 cents on the line.
Yeah, it's going to be ever evolving. I'm curious to see what they end up doing. I just don't want to see Tavares and Nylander again together. I don't know if I'm a hater, but like I just don't think it. Yeah, I don't think it fits. So I think they're like they work. They're like I don't know. They're a couple that needs to break up. They work better apart than together. I don't know. It's terrible.
Do they?
Anyways,
I don't know if the
I think
math
they do.
backs that up.
I don't know. I think they do. Anyways.
All right. Anyways, so those are the lines.
Yep.
I think that's all we had. No,
that's it. Yeah, that's it for me. I'm good.
That was all. Yeah. So big game against Edmonton on Saturday, and then a few other tough games, and then Sunday's a tough game as well. So fingers crossed. I wonder who's going to start Saturday versus Sunday. Not that it really matters because both are pretty good teams, but yeah.
You would think it's Samsonov just because Wall played oh my god, last game. Sorry.
I would think so.
Right? So
who played? Oh, it was Martin Jones played the last time they played Edmonton. Fun fact that they actually pointed out on the broadcast. This is the first time since, I want to say in France. I don't know when the last time it happened, but first time in a long ass time where the Leafs, I think ever, probably. Might want to fact check that. but where the Leafs had 3 goaltenders have 10 or more wins.
Wow.
Because Martin Jones, Ilya Samsonov, and now Joseph Wool.
Interesting. I could have sworn. Interesting.
I can't remember. I have to go back and look.
No, Shalgren had 8 wins that year. I was going to say, I could have sworn Shalgren had the Campbell Mrazek year.
No,
because Shalgren
he
played
started
a healthy
games,
dose.
but he went
of
like
games.
8-4 or something.
Yeah,
like
he went
that.
8-4. No, that's why I was like, did he get to 10? But yeah, that's interesting. That's funny.
Yeah, so
That's
interesting stat. Anyways, thanks everyone for listening.
Go Leafs, go.